Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. Welcome to this IEEE Big Data Analytics tutorial series. This is Qiu Shi. Today, we are honored to have Ankush Agarwal from Echelon. The topic today is setting up a data-driven culture, Echelon's Analytics Academy. So in this talk, Ankush will introduce the launch of Analytics Academy, and he will also present and share the lessons learned on how they are working to upskill their talent, developing an analytics community of practice, extracting hidden value from their internal talent, and showcase successful stories. And I think that today's talk will be around 1 hour, and during the talk or after the talk, you are welcome to send your question to me, and I can ask Ankush. You can also unmute yourself. We can also talk about ask questions to Ankush. Okay, without further ado, I give the speaker to Yang. He will give a brief introduction to Ankush.
Thank you, Qiu Shi. I would like to thank Ankush to be here. Ankush is the Director of Advanced Analytics, responsible for collaborating with leaders and experts across Echelon's 6 utility companies to develop and deliver robust grid T&D and safety advanced analytics program. Ankush co-founded Exxon's Premium Analytics Academy program, which is helping enable awareness and adoption of analytics across organizations to accelerate and developing of an analytics-driven culture. He has spent 12 years at Exelon in various analytics leadership roles where he was responsible for shaping the strategy and execution for audit and controls data analytics and IT audit function. He previously worked at the Farming Mark and TD Ameritrade. Ankush led the Utility Analytics Institute's Safety Analytics Community Initiatives, serving as the chairperson on Association of Edison Illuminating Companies, AEIC Analytics Council, and is on the advisory board for Grid Forward. He has 2 young daughters and is passionate about increasing engagement of girls in STEM programs of technology career. Finally, Ankush is a university gold medalist from LSU, Louisiana State, where he earned his bachelor and master degrees in ECE. He also spent time coordinating research on memory storage, estimation, and optimization for embedded system. Ankush, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to your talk.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me to this forum here. From what I understand, it's a really diverse group of individuals from university. We have professors, students, as well as utility professionals here. So I'm very happy to be here with this diverse audience. As was mentioned, we have, looks like 54 minutes to talk about this topic. I have a few slides I'll share to describe what we've been doing at Exelon. But I'm more than happy if there are questions which people want to put into the chat window or ask when they're unmuted. Happy to do that throughout the presentation. I'll pause if there are questions. Happy to make this a dialogue as well. And obviously can take questions toward the end as well. Po Chen will be moving my slides for me. And thank you for doing that, Po. If you can take me to the next slide, please. Before I get started, I wanted to just make sure everybody here understood who I work for, so that we can sort of ground the conversation we plan to have today. So I work for Exelon. We are a premier energy utility in the United States. We serve over 10 million customers. You can see the different territories we serve: Illinois, Maryland, Pennsylvania, DC, Delaware, and New Jersey. So pretty diverse space in northeast of US as well as central in Chicago, in the Chicago area. We are very heavily focused on leading our industry as in the environmental, social, and governance space. You'll see on the left-hand side a few things we called out. The reason we call these out is we want to make sure that everything we do is for our customers, and we know that this is what they're passionate about. So we like to ground all of our work in these three key areas. I'll just call out a few things. We have very strong environmental goals. We have 50% emission reduction planned by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2050 under our Path to Clean initiative. On a social perspective, we now have 80 plus company sponsored work development programs that reach over 8,000 participants in for our social give back. And then we're very proud of the fact that in leading as a governance, we have 59% of our executive committee is women or people of color. So very proud of that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'll be talking a lot today about the Exelon Academy, Exelon Analytics Academy program, which is designed to upskill our employees on doing more with data, becoming more data driven, and so we'll spend a good amount of time doing that. Before that, let me sort of just briefly give you a sense of what my role is with this academy. So I am the director of advanced analytics. I am responsible for deploying analytics with the 6 utilities around grid. That covers distribution, transmission, and substation analytics. It also includes safety analytics, and we're also starting to do more around gas analytics and also around DER. So that's sort of the scope of my work. I've been doing this for a few years, and I have a counterpart to myself who does similar activities for AMI, smart energy services, customer analytics, and we partner with analytic organizations all throughout Exelon across our 6 utilities to do that. And a few years ago, the question we asked ourselves was, if we want to become more data-driven and use more analytics in our organization, what do we need to make that happen? We realized that it's not going to be enough for us to just be the leader in developing analytics for our utilities. We also wanted, we knew that we needed more. And so we did a design thinking workshop in late 2018 to think critically about what it is the company needs to be more analytic driven. And we came up with a lot of ideas. There were about 80 plus challenges discussed and a lot of solutions discussed to them. But one of the things this group of 50 employees from across the company thought would be very critical is some sort of an academy to teach them about analytics. They wanted something which would be different than what they had seen before with training. They felt that there weren't as many good analytics training opportunities, or that they didn't know about what was going on. They didn't know what might be the best way to do it. And so in about a 3-month period, we worked with some vendor partners and our companies to design the Analytics Academy program, which you see here. It's evolved over the last few years into something much bigger. But when we started off, and this has been sort of a common theme, we started off with three distinct parts of this program. The first part was called awareness. So we wanted to create a very easy way for people to be introduced to analytics. You can imagine that we are a utility company. Many of our employees are engineers. They're very familiar with how to use data, but when it gets down to using analytics and its applications in industry, that's something they wanted to learn more about. So we created this awareness program. It's evolved over time. We started it off as a 10-hour program. where actually a 20-hour program where we would immerse them in content which would tell them about analytics. It would we pitched it as instead of going home and watching Game of Thrones or some other show they loved, we would encourage them to interact with our academy awareness content, and it was designed to be short videos which we found did a great job of telling people what's going on in the industry or articles they needed to read. So that's what we started off with, and then now it's grown into a 10-day challenge where every day they get introduced to a new topic in analytics. They get to engage with us on various exercises. They get to read, they get to interact with employees and leaders. So it's evolved into something very, very beautiful. We started off the overall academy with 100 folks who went through the program. And since then, we have grown this program through the awareness campaigns we've done to over 3,000 employees. As an example, last year, 2022, which was, I think, our 4th year, our awareness campaign brought in 700 employees into the awareness piece. And that was one of our biggest numbers we got. So 700 employees came in to join the awareness campaign last year. So now when employees start to learn about analytics, start to appreciate what machine learning is, what artificial intelligence is, they sort of get past the buzzwords and really understand how it's being applied in our industry. For many employees, that is a good amount of detail for them, because they want to understand who they need to partner with to do analytics. They need to understand what analytics is, but they don't necessarily need to all have the ability to do analytics. But some employees felt very strongly that for them to be more data-driven, they need to learn more about analytics. And so that's where we came up with the adopting phase. And this is where we partnered with Coursera. They, as you know, have a great online university of a lot of great analytic courses. My analytics team partnered with their curators, partnered with our data science teams, and we designed different personas so that different types of employees, we knew that they would have different interests in analytics. Some would want to be, could want to be business analysts, translators, where they are, they have a high level understanding of analytics, but don't need to necessarily go and code, but have to focus on visualizing the data using Power BI, using Tableau. There were other personas which we knew folks wanted to be data engineers, do more with data, big data, as well as hardcore programmers who wanted to code in Python or do things with that. So we created 13 different personas which matched these different types of learning journeys our employees would want to go to. And we gave them 6 months to complete that. What I really like to tell people is we didn't want this to become a one-way communication where they are just studying and studying and studying, because that felt very that model hasn't worked before. And so the Analytics Academy team, which we have put together, works really hard during these 6 months to create a university experience where they have time with coaches, mentors, have access to an expert network, are doing exercises, thinking about how they can apply what they've learned to their business problems, so sort of making it real. So that's really helped us evolve this program from not just being about training, but also about creating that atmosphere where they feel that they can learn and apply. So folks who graduate from the adopting phase are automatically accepted into the leading phase if they so choose. And this is where they get to take everything they've learned and apply it to problems. And so we've done this very successfully for a few years. We've had 39 projects go through this. We call them capstone projects. And through this, We create pod teams of people with different experiences, different backgrounds, and they showcase how they have learned and how they are putting this back into their role. So really proud of what our employees have done here, really proud of the leaders who have supported us. We have a very, very small team of folks who run the academy, but it would not be successful without our great employees and our great leaders who continue to support us and in everything we do. Some stats I wanted to share on this slide, which we're very proud of, is 93% of our graduates who were polled said that they would recommend this to a colleague, which is very important to us. And then the managers of those employees, 93% of them also said that they actually see a big difference in the graduates. They come back with so much potential, and they were applying this into their day-to-day roles. So really, really happy with what's been done here and how the academy has evolved over time. I will pause here to see if folks have any immediate questions. We're going to deep dive a little bit further, but I'll happy to take maybe one question or two questions if there are any. Otherwise, we can continue.
Thank you, Akush. Any question for Akush? I can have a question. When you say you work with the 6 companies for their data analytics, right now, what do they have? And do they have something for monitoring, like they see the data streams so they can occasionally find some, I don't know, abnormal situation, or they are already using, I don't know, data analytics to decide where to do the capacitor bank control? If you can give a high level flavor, what the little progress we have in the utility for data analytics, that will be exciting.
Sure, I can do that. So the way Exelon is structured is we have a Exelon analytics team at corporate, which is what I am a part of. Pochen is a part of. And that team, as I mentioned, is doing analytics. So in a few years ago, as we were designing the use cases, we not only identified which use cases we want to focus on, we also built a data analytics platform. And so as part of that work, we built a Hadoop-based platform where we brought in data across our 6 utilities for the use cases which we wanted to do. So I focused a lot on the grid data. And so we brought in all of our AMI data across the opcos into one space. We brought in our outage data. We brought in GIS data. So all of that data is in one spot called the data analytics platform, and it served the use cases which we had partnered with a vendor to deploy. Similarly, my counterpart, Tim Kroll, brought in customer data. So he also focused on AMI data from a customer lens. They also had an AMI analytics initiative. So they brought in not only the AMI usage data, but the voltage data, the different alarm alerts. They brought in customer data. They also brought in external customer data so that they could really know what the customers want. We try to be very customer centric. So that's how sort of we built our analytics data sets. And that's what my team and Tim Kroll's team uses to do analytics. Over time, we have brought in new data. So my team took a very heavy role in supporting the safety organization, as an example. And so for the safety data we used, we brought in data about safety. We spent a lot of time building infrastructure for telematics. So our employees' vehicles can give us location every 2 minutes. And so we brought that real-time IoT data into the analytics platform and can do analytics there. So we have a lot of data going on. From a PI perspective, I know this particular group of folks probably is interested in real-time data and what we did there. So I talked about AMI. That's obviously real-time, relatively real-time, near real-time data, high volume. But when we talked about PI data, we've had limited success in this space. We've had pockets of success. This is an area for us to grow in. But each of our Exelon companies have their own PI data archives. And so all of the data is coming in and it's stored on their PI systems. And we did some work a few years ago to create what was called a PI asset framework. So we had all this PI data, but we couldn't really find a scalable way to address that data and build analytics. And so we put together an high asset framework and deployed an Python SDK kit behind it. And so that was used by a few employees to start to use our PyData and build use cases around that. There's a lot of potential there. We didn't fully productionalize the PyData in the analytics platform. So we have a lot of smart individuals within the utilities who are Pi experts, and they are connecting to the Pi systems and doing analytics individually. But there's still a lot of potential for us to partner with them and do more there. I hope that sort of helps give that. So we have an external analytics team. We have data in one spot, but they also have the one-offs. And then, so these 6 utilities are divided into 4 companies. And each of these 4 companies have different levels of analytic teams. Some analytic teams are as big as ours and are focused on advanced analytics. Some analytic teams are focused more on reliability reporting and things of that sort. So it's a mixture of different analytics maturity, different focus. But what we are seeing is there's a lot more people focusing on data and analytics across the company.
Great, thank you. Nice point.
All right, next slide, please, Paul. Thank you, Paul. So here is a slide we like to use to showcase, a few slides to showcase the impact of the Academy. So when I was talking about the different personas, the 13 personas, we have grouped them into these smaller ones. So advanced analytics modeler, project manager, savvy programmer, translator, analyst, data engineers, again, managers, machine learning practitioner, and visual intelligence practitioner. So we are showing you across our four companies, the different companies we have: BGE, Comet, Pico, PHI, as well as corporate. You can see that how the different personas have been used is a good spread. And overall, we have graduated 300 plus employees from this particular program across these different personas, and also see the breakout of those 39 projects I talked about. And then a few more stats about our learners, about our managers, a few quotes. We also got highlighted, one of our employees, one of our graduates from the Academy got highlighted on a New York Times article about how we are being very innovative in how we empower our employees to do more with data, more with analytics, and improve their careers. Next slide, please. Thank you. Like I said before, the Academy team is extremely small. We do some really good work, but we aren't anything without the employees who support us, employees who are putting in their their blood, sweat, and tears to studying and doing more analytics. The 6-month commitment to study is not trivial. And so we have 2 folks from our team. We have Aline and Will Oliver. Just a few quotes from there, just to make it real for folks to see how the Academy is changing the way they interact with their customers or changing their skill sets. And then you have 2 quotes from leaders within the organization, one from our customer operations area in BGE, another from our VP of engineering and smart grid from ComEd, them talking about how the Academy is giving back in terms of their employees being able to adopt analytics. And then we as part of the experience, we try to highlight team members as well as projects which have succeeded. So you see some examples of recognitions for employees as well as teams who are part of it. So that's what we really think creates that university experience, where it's not just about learning, but about communicating and having that team together. Next slide, please. We continue to emphasize again that the program is not just about learning. Learning is more than education. It's about engaging your employees. And so here's one of my favorite exercises, which we do in the first month of our program, where we ask our employees to envision what their analytics superpower will be. And so these folks here are telling us, I'll take an example. The giver of sight, she was doing the visualization, the visualization persona. Her name was Sarah Burgos, and she was able to tell beautiful stories using Power BI. After this, we also did a spotlight on her, and she called herself the giver of sight. So really, this creative way for folks to envision what their superpower will be. We see that this empowers them to do more, helps them to drive to their goals. I'm probably preaching to the choir. These are all things which we used to do in our college time. So we just try to bring some of those concepts back into our workplace. Hope this is resonating with the professors and students over here who do this every day. Next slide, please. Thank you. My team put together some projects which the team has worked on over the last few years. The 39 projects I was referring to, they vary from. So let me just talk through how these projects get built. So when the employees are so employees get nominated for the adopting and leading phase. What that means is not only can they raise their hand and say we want to do this, but they can also be nominated by their leader, and then they can say they want to do this. And when they do that, they also sort of tell us what they see is one big problem they want to solve, which they feel like they haven't been able to do because maybe they were lacking the skills or the time and effort to do that. And so as they graduate, as they start picking up those skills, we continue to advance those ideas with them through the design thinking sessions, which the Analytics Academy team leads. And as that happens, we pick the projects which we think have the most potential in terms of driving business value, or complexity, or we have different things we use, and then we talk to our leaders and get approval for them to do a particular project. And these projects, I think, are extremely complex. Generally speaking, if a utility were to try to do these use cases, without a internal team, these would probably cost us in the $200,000 to $300,000 range with a vendor. So we are showcasing not only that your employees have learned and being able to solve, but also showcasing that if you invest in your employees and if they're motivated, you can actually get them to do things which would cost you a lot of money. So we are saving money as well. And so all of those things make this resonate with our leadership. Let me take an example, the second one over here called pole replacement identification modeling. This was a machine learning model developed by the ComEd team to identify poles which were being replaced by the storm. We don't unfortunately keep good records of this all the time. When we are in storm duty mode, we're just trying to get things done. And so this tool took all of those activities, took those pole records, took our telematics vehicle information I was referring to identify which poles were replaced. And as we're showing here, this project identified that it eliminated an estimated $100,000 of lost revenue due to a failure to identify poles that have been replaced without a associated work order agreement. So really interesting idea. This project actually got picked up by the ComEd team to expand further and became foundational to a lot of other work. The other project I like is the third one there around priority customer outages. They built a beautiful dashboard which brought data for all of our customers in, identified the ones which were high priority customers, and created an easy automated way to identify them, see if they were about to have an outage or had an outage, and help our customer teams interact with them more proactively and help them manage out of the outage. This also was very well received and used extremely heavily within Pico. So similarly, you can see by giving them real projects and helping them solve it, we are making a big difference here with our employees. They're getting to do something they love, and they're getting recognized for it within Exelon. All right. I just wanted to share a little bit about how we run our leading phase. Again, here we took a lot of cues from our life in universities and what made our mini projects, capstone projects successful there. And we applied some of our agile thinking, agile processes over here as well. So we came up with 3 key leading phase objectives. It's about applying learnings to real life problems, creating a business story to solve real problems, and then developing actionable insights. Our 4 key ways to do this is to deliver value quickly is we follow a prove value, a fast and fail fast methodology. So the projects are run in a 10-week period so that they can quickly identify and pivot if needed. It's very focused on integrating the skills they learned. When they present this work at the end of their after graduation, they always highlight what they learned and how it was applied. We are extremely big on teamwork. Obviously, we think that every employee at any level brings something new to the table. So we encourage diversity in teams and make sure they're working in teams. And then the last one is engaging stakeholders. So we have found that the best analytics do not work unless you have an engaged leadership team or engaged stakeholders who are going to actually use the analytics. So we teach that quite a bit. And then not only do we empower the employees to form teams and give them the time and space to do that, we also give them an analytics leader who they can partner with. That might be a past graduate or a person who's very interested in leading analytic projects. And we also give them a coach, and those are usually past graduates who have really shown how they can use analytics. And then, like I showed, we have some projects which we did here. Thank you. Just wanted to share a few artifacts for the projects I was referring to. These were important, and we wanted to share them as examples only because we manage very, very big projects at Exelon, and those sometimes become overburdening with the amount of time and effort it takes to manage like project status updates, and we didn't want to do that. And so we spent a lot of time trying to take the best of these templates, but making it easier for folks to focus on. And so we have created these templates for our employees and our teams to describe what they're working on, how they will engage stakeholders, how to manage their time, how to give updates, and also how to engage the different types of organizations to get value. So that's the showcase over here. I think we are coming up to my last slide, I believe. Next slide, please. So as we look at this program and look at its logical evolution, we now have over 300 graduates from the program, and we started to ask ourselves, we are seeing the academy is sort of embedded within the DNA of the company. A lot of employees have graduated through the different levels, seeing some really empowering stories there. But how can we do more with them? And so my team is right now working on what we are calling the evolution of the Analytics Academy. It's almost like Autumn Schaefer, who's my academy lead, we came up with this during a brainstorming session. We basically are turning the academy on its head. So if you think about the triangle I showed you in the first slide, we are flipping it around and basically shaking the academy and taking the best of the best and saying, how do we embed this into everything we do? So those 307 graduates, how can they now be part of that bigger analytics community? How can they deliver use cases? How can we continue to help them with education? It's as you all know, education doesn't end once when you finish your college, right? You need to keep learning, keep updating yourself. So you want to focus on that. How do we give them access to tools, and how do we reward and recognize them? So that's the full ecosystem we are building here. And now we are in the process of launching what we are calling a graduate analytics program, where graduates from the academy will be picking projects picked by leaders. They'll be handpicked, nominated to participate, and then they will start solving analytic problems in a very structured way. So we are looking forward to the launch of that, and we think that will enrich the academy even further and give back to the Exelon community, which has helped support the education of these employees. So that's sort of my presentation. Wanted to walk through the academy, give some real examples, share some real stories, and I'm happy to take questions from this group, especially this particular group, of people who are very like-minded and value education so much.
Thank you, Akush. It's a pleasure to hear the big picture and the architecture of what you have. Now, I do have some questions. Just want to check if the audience have something in mind. Anybody who has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and talk about your topic in any way you want. There's a question from Nicole. A great presentation. Could you speak more about what the original goal of the project were? So that's a question from the chat.
Sure. Great question, Nicole. So we had presented this earlier somewhere else, and somebody asked us, how long did it take you to get approval for this program? They asked that question. And I was thinking back, and I jokingly replied, this was the easiest project I ever got, which we ever proposed and got approval for, because the mission and vision of this program is so near and dear to every executive's heart. They couldn't see why we wouldn't support this, right? We are already investing in employees. Our employees already have training budgets. So that wasn't an issue. We knew that we wanted to do that. They knew that analytics was going to be an absolutely big part of Exelon. We knew that, and we knew that the more we launch analytic products, we would want employees who can appreciate it. So to your question, what was the original goal of the project? It started off with this concept of, if my team or any other team is going to deploy a storm prediction model, as an example, we want those employees who are going to be reading the outputs of those storm prediction AI models to be able to understand how to read the outputs of a model. A model doesn't, just gives you probability of what could happen, what couldn't happen. We wanted them to challenge us. And instead of my team saying we believe this thing has 80% accuracy, we wanted them to challenge us and say, what do you really mean by accuracy? What's your confusion matrix look like? What's the AUC curve? And challenge us and do that. And so that was the initial intent, was how do we create employees who can challenge us when we do analytics? And we believed very strongly that only such employees would then adopt such analytics. If there are employees and leaders who don't trust analytics, they won't be forthcoming in using the output. But if you are part of the process and leading it, so that was the original intent. And then everything sort of built around that in terms of, hey, how do I not only understand those models, but also build those models? So we kept evolving after that.
That's a nice point. Okay, two more. Oh, many more. So the first one is from Bob Kumar. Did you rely on cloud platform, open source? Were employees allowed to use any application they wanted, or only the ones that your company currently use? So yes, three questions. Cloud platform, sure. Can you comment? Open source, and do employees have freedom to do whatever they want?
Yeah. So at Exelon, when I talked about the data analytics platform which we created, that was an on-premise deployment. We have a very strong partnership with IT, and they are in the process of migrating our data analytics platform to the cloud. So we are moving to Azure, and all of our data is in the process of being moved there. My teams and other teams have started to use Azure, and so we are becoming very heavy on using cloud as our analytics platform. Pochen, who's on the call today and is part of this particular leadership team as well, he runs that team for me for the grid and infrastructure piece. In terms of the academy, we treated, this is sort of coming from the university college setting, right? What is college and university about? It's about making sure that the students understand the theory and the concepts very clearly so that they can then apply it to any tool in the world, right? Tools will keep changing, but if you understand the theory and the concepts, you can then keep evolving. So that's how we picked the courses we picked. They were focused on core concepts and then application to any tool. I challenged my team and I told them, don't focus on the tool which we use at Exelon. So, focus on what is the best course to teach the concept. Let them use any tool which the professor recommends to do it. Now, we do use Python. We do use Power BI as a visualization tool. We do use SQL, NoSQL, like anybody would. So those are the common things we use. So we try to align them, and it's pretty easy to do that. But our going in concept was, let's find the best course where they are engaging students and teaching them key concepts. And then for the 39 projects which they did, we thought really hard about this in terms of, should we tell them to only use the analytics platform? And we decided against that. We said, you have these new skills, you have new tools, do whatever you like, however you want to do it, and solve the problem. We don't care what you use. Now, when you try to scale problems and do analytics as part of the analytic teams, we are very restrictive, obviously, in what tools we bring in. But for the academy folks, their focus is solve the problem, do whatever you can, get your hands on whatever Exelon allows you to use, even if it's outside of our ecosystem. If you allow them to do that, that's what we do.
All right. Thank you. The other question from Joe. Great presentation, by the way. Can you talk about the ongoing experience for your analytics team in general? Like, I guess, do you have any special observation? And the second question is, do you have a value estimation or value estimating process? And the third one is, how have you quantified success? Like when you say, hey, this is successful, when you say, hey, this is a failure. Thank you.
Yes, sure. So let me sort of reread the question. So it talks about ongoing capital versus expense cost for analytics. I think I can answer that. What is the value estimation process and how do you quantify success? Good. So let me answer the question once from the academy perspective, then I'll do it from the analytics perspective as well. So from the academy perspective, all of those 39 projects, Autumn Schaefer, who runs the Analytics Academy program, she picks projects with the leaders which are true problems, for our grid or for our customers, and they have clear success criteria and value driven to that, right? So, for example, the project I talked about in the previous slide about how do we identify priority customers? It's clear that when you're managing an outage, notifying priority customers is absolutely important. So, there's a value built around that. So for the academy, 39 projects, we are very focused on making sure we pick the projects which have the right value, and we have a full value tree for that. Now, when you talk about the analytics projects, which my team does, Tim Kroll teams does, or others do in the opcos, that's where we have learned over the last few years that it is extremely important to focus on the success upfront and what will be the sort of value. Initially, when we were starting off, I think there was a little bit of, oh, that's a cool thing to do, let's go and do it. And we started realizing that cool things don't necessarily stick. You have to have stakeholders, you have to have partners who are going to adopt the analytics and who are going to stand up and champion it. So when you talk about how do we estimate value, how do we quantify success, it now starts from the top down. Every project we bring in has a senior leader associated with it. They believe that if the project is solved, it can actually solve a problem which will transform their business or make a big difference in their business. And we haven't successfully been able to convert everything into dollars. That's maybe a gap we are trying to figure out how we can do, but it's very clear what the value is being delivered, but we can't necessarily figure out the dollar. That's something my team is still challenged with, and we are figuring out how to do that.
Great, thank you. And another professional question to you. CGNG said, I may have missed the point earlier. Can you talk about gamification, learning boards, and the 10-day challenge when it comes to keeping all key stakeholders informed and aware of the overall portfolio of analytics being developed by teams that may not potentially interact? One recurring problem I have noticed is that I like to call recreating the wheel, and I would love to know of the potential ways to cut down on that.
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. Let me try to answer it a little bit at least. So, as I said, the things you're referring to, gamification, learning boards, 10-day challenge, they are part of the awareness phase. So, so Autumn Schaefer, who's our lead, she is a communication specialist. Her degree, her focus is on how can she engage employees, right? So she's not an analytics person; she's a customer-facing employee sort of person, right? And so to your question of how do we not recreate the wheel? How do we drive engagement? Her and the partners we worked with made it very clear to us early on that we need a way to engage our employees. And so we kept leaning in more on gamification in that, hey, come and join our program. We're about to kick it off. If you join us, the top X learners will be given this prize. If you qualify if you pass this program, you will be accepted into you'll be eligible to go to the next phase. So having a hook on like what they get out of it and how this helps them is very important. We do have a small, tiny budget for giving away prizes and things of these sorts. But I'll be very honest with you. We sort of have had this thing where I think analytics is a very important topic. It's a very sexy topic. Everybody wants to know what's going on with analytics. And so honestly, like, we have done a great job with the gamification and creating the right learning boards and the 10-day challenge, but it's really our employees, I think, who really appreciate and understand the value of analytics from the projects we have been doing and the graduates we've had and the top-down leadership focus on it. So that's really also, I think, a key driver beyond these nice tricks and games of bringing people and engaging them.
Right, I like your answer. Great. Qiushi, do you have? Oh, there's another one. Oh, CGNG said, thank you for your insight, Akush. I'm Yang, myself. So, Qiushi, do you have any question from your side?
Yes, I do receive one question from the audience. Can you please share a successful story of employees who find new opportunities through data analytics platform in their work?
Somebody's helping me lead to an answer. There are so many examples. Yeah, so this is an example right here on the screen where graduates of the program are solving real problems, right? And making a big difference, be it safety, be it helping out after a storm, customers, distribution automation. And then the Autumn gets messages all the time from folks who have finished the program, and they are telling us their stories of, hey, I got access to the Pi data the other day and we ran a model on this and got this output, and we tried to showcase them and use them as examples. There's no shortage of examples of people finding ways to contribute and put back. And I'll be honest with you, the highest value projects are not always the most complex projects. So you'll notice on the screen here, only one of these projects on the screen had a machine learning model with it, the second one. The other ones were, just massaging the data, bringing the data and telling a beautiful story. And we have found that to be really important, is that being able to tell stories with data and engineer the data in the right way to tell the right story is as important. And so honestly, we hear those stories more often from our graduates.
Nice. All right, I see John unmuted. John, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Jan. Yeah, thank you, Ankush. This is a fantastic presentation. I really was inspired by it, actually. So yeah, I'm on Resource Innovations, and I've been working with utilities and in the energy industry for almost 30 years. And I would say more of a comment than a question, but I see a lot of utilities sometimes are very siloed, right? The analytics department does analytics, and the operations does operations, and planning does planning, et cetera. This is a really nice way, I think, to break down those silos and have a much more collaborative culture where you have many different people from different parts of the organization working together. So I would just say bravo for that. I'd love to see this replicated at more utilities.
For sure. Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think there's something about this program which has resonated with our employees and leaders. And I think what you said is one of the big things is whoever graduates on the program and we bring back panelists, then bring them back as panelists and ask them what they learned from it. They obviously give kudos to the education, but they always focus in on what you just said is they now, they love that a customer person was able to, talk to a grid person and work on the same project with them and get their perspectives and collaborate with them and just mingle with different types of people within the organization. So you're so right. That was one of the big drivers of I mean, they call it networking almost, right? This is a great vehicle to have employees network, leaders network within the organization. And it's sometimes seems silly and surprising, but it just makes sense when you take a look back. We have so much going on. We have so many high priority things going on. And it sometimes takes something like this for people to take a step back and really collaborate and think outside of the different silos.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Good work.
Thank you, John. Now we come with the last question for today. So first, Nico said, I agree with John. This has been very inspiring. And Nico want to follow up with the previous question. You mentioned that employees could volunteer for the program or could be nominated. Approximately what proportions, like I guess maybe 10%, 20%, 30%? And do you see any differences in outcomes from the two groups you mentioned?
Sure. So and the way it works is majority of the folks, I'm just throwing out a number, 80 to 90% are applying for the program. And then they're applying for the program, asking their leader to nominate them. Does that make sense? So that's 80 to 90% of it is people telling their leader, I want this because of this, and that's why I am the right candidate, right? And we almost always approve. The only instances where we haven't been able to approve is when so many people within one department want to participate in the program at the same time. And so we just tell them, hey, why don't we give you the opportunity this year and the next one the next year. That's been the only other place. Now, to your question, there are some departments who have really embraced the academy, and they do have a process where they know that everybody wants to do this. And so they nominate people. That has been successful. And the reason for that, the success we see for them is the departments which are leaning in and picking the people, they're also telling them, I want you to solve this project. And so the projects which they then do are much more impactful because the leaders are, pushing for it and they thought about it. So that's, I think, one way in which I've seen their outcomes be a little bit different when the leadership is leaning in and like, please solve this problem and we'll give you 6 months to study and learn. So that's been a big difference.
Thank you, Ankush. Nico said, thank you, very helpful. With this, we are approaching the end. I would like to thank Ankush and Bo-Chen for giving this talk. And we appreciate the time on the educational piece, the general setup, the collaboration, and also your visions towards the end. We look forward to create some resource web page with you so that more people can see your work. So thank you so much. And goodbye, everybody. See you next time.